You won't believe the shocking truth behind the adoption scam that's left countless families shattered. Imagine you're sitting in a dimly lit room, the smell of old files and stale air filling your nostrils as you stumble upon a cryptic document that reads, "We sell babies." What really happened to these children, and who's behind the sinister plot? You won't believe the shocking truth behind the adoption scam that's left countless families shattered. Imagine you're sitting in a dimly lit room, the smell of old files and stale air filling your nostrils as you stumble upon a cryptic document that reads, "We sell babies." What really happened to these children, and who's behind the sinister plot? You're staring at a folder labeled "Confidential," the words "We sell babies" scribbled in red ink on the edge. And that's when it hits you, the sheer scale of this operation. But what's really going on behind these cryptic documents? Look at the dates, they span decades. So, how many families have been affected? You're about to dig into a decades-long trail of deceit. What really happened to the families who thought they were adopting a child in need? Imagine you were there, sifting through documents, and a single sheet catches your eye, a handwritten note with a date, a name, and a staggering sum of money. But what does it mean? You're staring at a yellowed note, the handwriting messy, the date, March 12, 1987, and a name, Emily Wilson. A sum of $10,000 is scribbled in the corner. What does it mean? You look closer, the paper crackling in your hands, and that's when you see it, a small, almost imperceptible notation, "Baby girl, born." You're holding the note, the scratch of the pen on paper still visible. The sum of $10,000 stares back, a haunting reminder. But what does it mean? And look, the notation at the bottom, a warning, a clue, or just a red herring. Which, honestly, makes no sense when you think about it. As you turn the note over, a faint smell of tobacco wafts up, and that's when you see the faded photograph of a young girl, Emily Wilson, tucked away in the corner, her eyes seeming to follow you. You're staring at the note, the $10,000 sum burning into your brain. What's the story behind this amount? The notation at the bottom seems like a cryptic message or a desperate plea. As you turn it over, a name catches your eye, Eleanor. Who is she? And what's her connection to this mysterious note? Imagine you were there, tracing the faint scribble of Eleanor's name, the scent of old paper and desperation hanging in the air. But what's her connection to this $10,000 sum? Look at the handwriting, it's shaky, like a plea. Which, honestly, makes no sense when you think about it. And now, you're left wondering, who is Eleanor, and what did she have to do with this adoption scam? You're staring at a receipt, the paper worn and faded, with a handwritten note, $10,000, for a service. What kind of service costs that much? The words Eleanor's and baby girl are scribbled in the margin, a faint question mark hovering beside them. But here's where it gets really strange. The date on the receipt is just a week before Eleanor disappeared, and now you're wondering, what really happened to her? You're holding a receipt, the creased paper crackling in your hands, as the faint scent of old ink wafts up, $10,000, a staggering sum, paid to a mysterious entity, for what, exactly? And what's with the scribbled names, Eleanor, baby girl? Which, honestly, makes no sense when you think about it. Suddenly, the silence is broken by the creak of a floorboard. You're staring at the receipt, the $10,000 payment looming. What could be worth that kind of money? A life, perhaps? And the names, they seem to be just a starting point. Look closer, and you'll find a small notation, almost imperceptible. Eleanor, baby girl, adopted. But by whom? Imagine you were there, holding that receipt, the faint scent of fresh paper and ink still lingering. A $10,000 payment, what could be worth that kind of money? You see the notation, almost imperceptible, and a name, Eleanor, baby girl. But the question still echoes, adopted by whom? And what's with the faint scribble in the corner, a phone number? You're staring at a handwritten ledger, the scratch of pen on paper still visible. A single entry catches your eye: Eleanor, baby girl, adopted by the Smiths. But the address listed, it doesn't exist. What really happened to Eleanor? You imagine yourself standing in front of a worn, wooden door, the address listed for the Smiths, but it doesn't exist. Look, the streets are empty, the only sound, the creaking of trees. But what if this was all a ruse? A cleverly constructed lie. Which, honestly, makes no sense when you think about it. And now, you're left wondering, where did the Smiths really take Eleanor? You're still standing there, wondering what's real, what's not. The creaking trees seem louder now. And then, a figure appears, from around the corner, where the streetlight barely reaches. You can't make out their face, yet. What are they doing here? A figure emerges from the shadows, their features obscured by the faint streetlight, but what catches your attention is the old photograph they're holding, a picture of a baby with a note that reads ours. You feel a shiver run down your spine as they take a step closer, the creaking of their shoes on the pavement echoing through the night air, and then they whisper a name that makes your blood run cold. You're left staring at the photograph, the baby's eyes seeming to follow you, and that's when you notice the date stamped on the back, a date that doesn't add up. The figure takes another step closer, their breath visible in the chill night air, and you can't help but wonder, what really happened to this child? But here's the thing, the adoption records are sealed, which, honestly, makes no sense when you think about it. You're face to face with the figure, the photograph still clutched in your hand, and that's when they whisper a single word: run. But what are you running from? The truth, or something far more sinister? You're left standing there, frozen, as the figure disappears into the darkness, and that's when you hear the sound of footsteps, echoing through the empty streets. Look around, and you're alone. But the photograph in your hand, it's still clutched tight, a reminder of the truth you've been searching for. Which, honestly, makes no sense when you think about it. And now, you're running out of time. You're holding the photograph, the face of a child staring back at you, and you can't shake the feeling that you've only scratched the surface of this adoption scam. The streets are empty, the only sound the distant hum of a city that never sleeps. But what really happened to these children? The truth, much like the figure that disappeared into the darkness, remains elusive. You're left standing there, the city lights reflecting off the wet pavement, as the question echoes in your mind, what really happened to these children? And as you look down at the photograph, the face stares back, a haunting reminder of the truth still hidden. But here's the thing, thousands of children are still unaccounted for, and you have to wonder, are they still out there? You're left standing there, the city lights reflecting off the wet pavement, as the question echoes in your mind, what really happened to these children? And as you look down at the photograph, the face stares back, a haunting reminder of the truth still hidden. But here's the thing, thousands of children are still unaccounted for, and you have to wonder, are they still out there?